part we know, and it says, "Keep these words that I am commanding you today in your heart. Recite them to your children and talk about them when you are away, when you lie down and when you rise. Bind them as a sign on your hand, fix them as an emblem on your forehead. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates." I love how specific and concrete the solution is here. If you've ever seen Orthodox Jews walking around with their phylacteries, their fringes hanging down from beneath their clothing, those are their reminders, as one of us might tie a string around our finger. Many Jewish homes have a beautiful mezuzah in the doorway which holds these words of the Shema, and each time they go in or out, they touch the commandment that Jesus says is the greatest of them all. And this part, too, is very helpful, I think. Recite them to your children, it says. Well, we're doing that here, as we know, doing a Sunday school rotation about the Ten Commandments. And they are literally posted all over the doors and walls and even windows of our classrooms. They are being memorized. But we adults, I wonder how many of us can remember all 10 commandments. One time as a confirmation class assignment, I sent my kids out to Fellowship Hall after church to poll the adults on the 10 commandments, see who could name all of them. And when we got back together to compare results, it was very interesting to me that of all the people in that church, there was only one person who could remember all 10. And it wasn't one of the 2 seminary professors there, or any of the retired or active clergy or seminarians who won. It wasn't even one of the dozen or so veteran Sunday school teachers. It was just one ordinary grandmother who had paid careful attention 60 years before, when she had been in Sunday school, growing up in a missionary family in the Middle East. The great thing about teaching children morality is that sometimes those lessons actually do stick. And not only that, sometimes our kids actually expect us to follow the rules we teach them. Yes, when we old folks forget, God bless our children for reminding us to do the right thing. One time at summer camp where I was a chaplain, I had the kids make and decorate their own mezuzahs as a craft and write the Shema on little scrolls to place inside. And Leela proudly mounted hers on her door to her bedroom doorway, and every time she went in or out through the door, she would touch it. And I thought it was sweet, and so when I would go into her room at night to say our prayers, I'd touch it too. But then one day, as it happens sometimes in families, some disagreement or another broke out about bedtime. She snapped at me, and I said something nasty back to her, and the next thing I knew, she was stomping off down the hardwood floor of the hallway toward her bedroom, made nice, resounding anger. But as she went inside the room and past the mezuzah, whack! She hit it with all her strength. And after that, I just kind of couldn't quite bring myself to touch it. I was reminded again of how much more important our love for each other was than whatever petty fight had caused us to use such harsh words. And that night, our bedtime prayers were about real love and real forgiveness. And God's grace was thick in the room. What a blessing God's law of love is in our lives. And wouldn't the world be a beautiful place if we could all just remember to follow these laws of love? In closing, I wanted to tell you the first sermon I ever preached in front of a room full this size of people was back in seminary, and it was on this very text. My husband found it on an old computer disk, passed it along. It was called "Love One Another It's not just a good idea, it's the law. And I thought, since we celebrated our Yankee Fair last week with a theme of going green, it would be appropriate to recycle just the last paragraph of that sermon, which my dad always said was one of his favorites. In fact, he was so inspired by it, he later mailed me a picture of his front lawn with 6-foot-tall letters cut into the hillside with the lawnmower that spelled out Love. So here goes. God seems to be trying to tell us in all the law and the prophets, get it through your thick heads, people. Love me more than anything else. Tie a string around your finger, put a Post-it note on your forehead, write love all over the palms of your hands, write them all up and down both arms as cheat notes if you have to. Write love in bright red crayon on your walls and nail signs in your doorways. Spray paint love across your driveway, across your garage door. Spell out love in shingles on your roof. Cut the word love on your front lawn with your lawnmower. You know, sometimes people do go home from church and do what the preacher says. Teach love, talk love, live love, eat, breathe, and sleep love. And most importantly, make love your constant prayer. For just as we first were loved, so must we love our neighbor. And with the power of God to help us, some days we might actually remember. Thanks be to God for this good news. Amen.